Miss Bishop. So one thing that I want to go back over, I think would be a good quick reference, is to discuss plot and specifically the elements of plot. So when we discuss plot, we're talking about the series of events that occur in a story. What happens in a story, basically. You have to have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And more specifically, we talk about what we call the elements of plot, which are what you see here on this plot diagram. So starting with the exposition, that's the first element of plot. You've got to have all of these in order to have a story. And the exposition is the backstory. It's where you're introduced to the characters, to the setting, and this is where you get a glimpse of what normal is like in the world of the story before any problems come along to complicate things, which always happens in a story. But the exposition is that old normal with the characters and the setting introduced. Then, of course, like we said, we always have some sort of conflict, some sort of drama in a story. Otherwise, there's no point in telling it, right? So rising action refers to these events, these conflicts that build and build on top of each other, creating suspense and tension and drama in the story. This is what keeps you interested. This is what keeps you hooked. And these events build and build and build until they get to a point of highest action, of highest drama, and that's what we call the climax. The climax will have some sort of turning point where the character in the story, if it's a personal narrative, then the character is you. The character has to make some sort of decision or comes to some sort of realization. The climax always marks a turning point. Things used to be one way, and then the climax comes and blows it all up, and it's like the big explosion in the story that starts to work towards a resolution because, again, we're making big decisions here or coming to big realizations. So after the climax, if you think of that as the big explosion in the story, the falling action is kind of like all of those exploded pieces falling back down and falling into place. So the falling action is where you see how the world and the characters are affected by what just occurred in that climax. And then eventually we come to the resolution, and the resolution is the new normal in the world of the story, the conclusion. Here is where your character has learned something. They are able to take something away from the whole experience that just occurred to them. So if you watch this short little cute commercial, we may be able to see these elements of plot in action.
I wish I could ask you, how was your day? We may be different, but also the same. A friend would be lovely, don't you agree? Close we could be, smiling and free. Just you and me. And together feel the love, my dear, and never.
Okay, so I actually stopped that just a little bit early, but I think it's okay. All right, so in the exposition for this short little story, we have a family coming home with their new baby. It's not a newborn baby, the baby's been around for a little bit, but there's also a dog in the home as well. And the conflict that we see, the tension, is that, so this is the rising action. The baby is scared by the dog and doesn't like him, and the poor dog, actually another event under rising action is that the dog can't be with the rest of the family, so he feels kind of lonely and sad and has to hang out outside of the room. Which leads the dad to his big realization, the climactic moment. The dad realizes the baby likes a stuffed lion, so he orders a lion's mane for the dog and puts it on the dog. And this moment is very dramatic, and if you go back and watch the commercial, you can tell that it's very dramatic because the music stops and we all are waiting with bated breath, trying to see what decision this baby is going to make about the dog. And so that is the big explosive moment. We're kind of, it goes kaboom, and we're kind of waiting to see how the pieces fall into place. And the falling action in this case is that the baby accepts the dog and reaches out for him and wants to play with him. So as a resolution, the new normal in this story is that the baby allows the dog to rejoin the family. And so now they can be a whole family again, and the dog doesn't have to hang out on the outside of the room. Everyone is happy. So those are the elements of plot in action in a very short little activity. I also for English 4 had posted this same activity but with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song, and I would practice and see, short little episodes, especially 30-minute things. See if you can work out what the elements of plot, how the elements of plot are working in that story, so that you can have a hang of it. And then when you're writing your personal narratives, remember that whatever experience or event you write about is supposed to be something that in which you have a big realization. You learn some big lesson. Maybe you make a big decision, and it leads to a resolution where you are different somehow. You have learned something. You're not the same as you were before. Your new normal in the resolution is different than your old normal in the exposition. So yeah, those are the elements of plot.